So hi all. So in this video I'm going to explain one of the famous programming site called HackerRank to solve and learn about programming languages. So once you sign up and log into your portal, you can see what are the languages you had solved and learned. So in this section, so there are several languages available where you can learn about them, like C, C++, Java, and algorithms, data structures, and also artificial intelligence. So you can learn these kind of languages. So I'm going to explain about Java and to solve the problems in Java. So I had chosen one of the simple problems. So here you can, so in this section you can see what are the solved problems and what are the problems to solve. So unsolved problems, you can use these section to make changes regarding to your position. Like if you are beginner, you can use easy problems to solve, and next you can move to medium problems, and finally you can move to the hard problems. So these section contains you can specifically learn about strings and data structures, object oriented programming, exception handling, and advanced concepts. You can make changes regarding to your learning position. So I'm going to explain one of the easiest problem in Java and how you can what are the steps you need to consider while you are going to solve the problems. So I'm going to solve this problem. So here you need to consider standard Java standard in and standard out problem. So once you choose the problem, you need to read the problem statement carefully. So you need to understand what are the input and what is the output they are asking in the question. So in this challenge you must read an integer, a double, and a string from standard in. So from the user you need to get the integer, double, and a string value, and then print the value according to the instructions in output format section below. So you need to get an input from the standard input from the user, like in this format, and then you need to print the value according to the output format. So this is the standard input format, and you need to print the output like in this format what they had given. So next, so regarding HackerRank, in this they had given half of the portion of the code. So already they had given the half of the problem, and you need to write your snippet here. So you need to write your code here to solve the problem. So this is, we recommend completing Java standard before attempting. So okay, so in this this is the problem statement they had given. You need to understand this question. So here the next you need to move to the input format. So this is the constraint they had given for solving this problem. So you need to get an input from the user like in this format. So first line contains an integer, second line contains a double, and third line contains a string. So in this format only you need to get the input. So next you need to move to the output format. So there are three lines of output. First one will be string, and next will be double, and the third will be integer. So you need to get an input from the user, and you need to print those input. So what are the values I had get what are the values you had get as input? You need to print those values in the output. So this is the format you need to print. So if there is a note section, you need to consider it carefully, because here they had given us a hint for solve the problem. So I'm going to explain this in the code section. So this will be the sample input. So you can understand from this, and this is the sample output. So you need to get an input from the user and you need to print. So if you are unable to understand the problem statement, you can easily understand from this sample input and sample output. So like as a trick, you need to understand from this sample input and sample output. So the first step would be to solve a problem. You need to understand the problem statement, and so what is the input and output format. So you need to understand what is the format you need to get an input, and what is the output format you need to print in the section. And so next will be note section. There they had provided the hint to solve the problem. And finally you need to code in this editor. So here they had so already they had provided a syntax for getting an integer, and you need to write a code to get an input value for double and a string value. So here I'm going to code for getting a double value, because the first step would be getting an integer. Here you can see the first will be integer and second line will be double, and the third line for getting string value. So double d. So you can declare a variable in any name. So I'm going to declare as d scan dot next double of. So this would be the syntax for getting double value, and next it would be string value. I'm going to assign as yes scan, because this here this already they had given. So scanner scan, here the object for scanner would be scan. So scan dot next line of. So yes, this would the code for getting the double and a string value. So they had already given a code for printing those lines. So this was the format for printing those statement, because the first line contains string, next would be double, and third would be integer. If they had not given this line, you need to print only in this format, because if you are going to change these format, like if you are going to print the integer value and then double then string, it would provide you the error, because this format only you need to print the output, otherwise it would contains an error. So I'm going to run this command. Processing. Yeah, here wrong answer. Input would be 42 and your output string. As you can see here, only the empty line had been printed and no so the input value is not printed here. You need to check why this error occurs, because once you get the integer value and double value, next it would be string value. So as like you in C, there will be a flush value to clean the buffer, but in Java there was not any option to clean the buffer, so you need to manually provide a code to clean those buffer. So this was the section you need to consider here. So in this note, if you use the next line, so next line of was the hint to clean your buffer, like you need to clean your buffer once you get the integer and double value. So scan dot next line of. So this was the main point to understand here, because once the integer and double value has been get as input from the user, and the next would be in enter key. So if the program is going for the next line, like string s equal to scan next line of, so here the Java is understand that there was an empty line presence here. So once it comes from the double, get an input from the user for double, and next it going to it goes to the next line. So if it has an enter key and it consider only the empty value for the string, so I'm going here, if you write this line, it just consider as if there is a present, it checks scan dot next line of, it checks whether the next line presents. Yes, string s equal to scan dot next line of. So it's going to get the input for the string value, and then it would be print in the output statement. So if you did not if it not contains this line, it just consider the enter key as an empty line and just get an input for string as empty line, and it just prints here. So this is the reason why an empty line presents here. So once integer and double value has entered, we need to write this code. So it just checks whether the next line presents or not. Yes, it contains a string value and gets an input from the user. If there is no line here, it just consider the enter key as input for the string and just prints only the empty line for string value. So if you use this syntax, it just checks here, processing your code. Yes, here it goes to get the value for string value and just print the expected output. So this would be the sample test case. 2 test cases have been passed and you need to submit your code. So it just going to check with the other test cases. So these were the test cases you did not able to see. So test case 1 and test case 2 were locked. So once your code passes the sample test cases, it just you need to submit your code. It just compares with other test cases. So if your program passes these test cases, they had award you points. So this was the simple program where you can solve in the section. So once you choose a problem, you need to understand the problem statement. So what is the input and output format, and finally you need to code your program here. So if you had any doubt, you can use your note section for using the hint. Yeah, this was the problem I had explained here. So if you're keen to learn about Java, you can choose several kinds of program here, like in the practice section. Yes, thanks for listening to this video.